Good evening and welcome as we join you once again on our special edition of Date with Danu. Today is a very different show. We are not doing the usual run. It's quite pressing. We're going to be speaking a little bit about the issues that we are facing currently. And today, a very important is going to join me on the show. He's someone who has mentored many people and he has been quite a live wire for a lot of us. Actually, I give all credit to my masters and my education to Rohantha. So he forced me into it. Hi, Rohantha.
Hi, Danu. How are you doing?
And I'm doing good, and I hope you are seated and not standing.
Well, I'm kind of standing, but it's okay. I'm fine.
Well, you are into karate and the whole work. So in your discipline life, I think your standing is just going to be quite easy.
Well, I'll try.
Yeah, so in conversation with Rohantha, who was, I'm sure you know, he held some very special positions in our country. Dr. Rohantha Athukorala is the CEO of Culture Sri Lanka, Maldives and Pakistan, and he was the former chairman of Sri Lanka Export Development Board and Sri Lanka Tourism. Thank you so very much for joining me today, and I hope you can hear me loud and clear. To start things off, how is quarantine treating you?
Well, actually, I'm really going through a system where we are really tied, to be honest. We work 24/7, Danu. I mean, I'm sure it must be feeling with everybody. Normally, when you go to work, you're off at 5:15 or 5:30, and then you go to the gym and you're back home. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But here, you start at 8 o'clock and you go until about 10 o'clock in the night. You know, so and actually, a lot of people are actually complaining about this. You know, this working from home, you know, is actually very stressful. It's not at all. You don't get a home feeling at all in this working process. I'm sure
because you actually don't leave your home and go, so you are sort of battling two things at the same time. Can you hear me?
Yep, you're right, Danu. You're totally linked up.
Cool. So I wanted to speak to you a little bit about the current situation. And as someone who has been in the forefront and worked in many industries that have worked towards creating change in our economy, I'm sure you know these are definitely pressing times for us in our country. So now, how is the current situation going to impact our hospitality industry? Is a big issue that everyone is facing. Because lots of people in the past few years moved into hospitality. A lot of youngsters moved into backpacker hotels and so many great opportunities came about. What is your take on that?
See, I mean, we must be ready for any eventuality that happens in the marketplace, Danu. I mean, we have had tsunamis, we have had, you know, devastating terror attacks, and the tourism industry has always recovered. See, we have to understand that the tourism industry lives on the edge, right? And anywhere in the world, whether it be a disease that goes out or whether it be a man-made disaster or a natural disaster, the first industry that gets affected is the tourism industry. But then, you know, you have to be resilient enough to get back. So that is the challenge that you have. And fortunately, from a macro end, you know, last week the cabinet has approved the 5-year tourism promotional plan as well as the whole marketing campaign. So now, you know, assessment is currently being done, and post that assessment, there will be two segments. One is going to be how you're going to target the December segment, which is your winter travel, and then you're going to look at what the post that, how you're going to position the country. So it's very clearly, I think, I'm sorry, but, you know, the jobs that I have done in Sri Lanka Tourism, Export Development Board, you know, in my earlier job in Reckitt and Unilever, where I worked in the region, you know, for us, we have been trained to look at every single problem as an opportunity, you know. So in my view, Sri Lanka has got a fantastic opportunity, just almost like a drawing board, clean slate to relook at the whole product and maybe relook at our target groups that we are going to focus on and coming out with a global marketing campaign and position the country to the top end tourists of Sri Lanka. So we have got that opportunity, and we should really make the best out of it. I mean, just to cite an example, I mean, if you take Maldives and Sri Lanka, I mean, Maldives, you get only the sea, yeah, right? But if you take Sri Lanka, I mean, all of us know, I mean, you get the best leopard sighting in the world. You know, you have I mean, within about 2 hours, you see the whales, you know. Then you have history of 2,000 years that goes in. You know, then you have a typical Sri Lankan culture of that warm hospitality. Then you have, you know, Ceylon tea, which is the best in the world. Every day there is about 60 million people having a cup of tea, which is out of the world, which is the first ozone-friendly tea that one can consume. You have Ceylon cinnamon, which almost 90% market share is there. So, I mean, I can on and talk about
of
products
course,
that we have
in terms of the benefits.
Competitive. So,
yeah. But how do you view
Danu,
COVID?
we are in a position.
Pardon?
Well, you know that it's a disaster that has happened to the world. And I mean, end of the day, we know that it's going to have a huge ramification to the economy, have a huge impact to the company's profitability. I mean, let's be real here. Okay. Now, but what we have to do is, I think, in my view, I'm an artificial intelligence company. I represent 3 countries. We have done the data analytics, and what comes out is there are no cases. Second segment is where you have sporadic cases. Then you have the third, which is where you have a family where one person has, and a whole family has got it. And then you have a fourth one where the whole community has got it. Okay. Now, if you look at Sri Lanka in its entirety, 18 districts, this whole area of stage 1 and 2, where there are no cases. In fact, there are about 12 districts where there is nothing. 0. Okay. Yeah. And then there are 1 to 2 cases which are there in the about 5 or 6. So basically 70% for business, you know. But then you have the other 5 or 6 districts which are where now you get families, 1, okay, and now today in the morning you saw how now there are communities of 19, 20 people who have got it, which is stage. We have to now do this whole concept called hammer, you know, and I'll just take maybe 10 seconds on this, Danu. Now, every country in the world does this thing called hammer and dance. Hammer means you lock down and you have 21 days, 36 days and 49 days. So otherwise, you say, okay, let the people dance, which means that they should go back and do their work and do their normal lifestyle. So what we should do is to allow 14 districts to continue their economy and dance, while the rest of the 6, we have to do the lockdown, we call it the hammer, until this virus dies off a body between 14 to about 20 days.
Okay, but now, as you know, that the government did relax the curfew in certain places, and then it was implemented with immediate effect. Does this show, or does this sort of portray the fact that we are still in a point where we could go into a drastic level in this virus, or are we at a good stage?
To understand that this is an invisible enemy. Okay, so that nobody in the world has found out yet a solution how to manage.
Yeah. Okay, Rohantha, you have actually, your visuals have got stuck. Can you see us? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Let me connect with you again. Can you connect with me again, Rohantha? Things do happen. Let's reconnect with Rohantha if Rohantha is there. We were at a point of conversation where he did speak about the whole hammer and dance part. I'm just trying to see if Rohantha is there. Yes, he is. These things do happen when it's alive.
Can you hear? Yeah.
Yes, now you're back with us. Thank you. So,
Hi, Danu, I'm
Rohantha,
back.
you were talking about yeah, you were talking about the whole situation that is currently happening in Sri Lanka. Okay, I'm losing signals, Rohantha.
So, Danu, what I'm saying is that nowhere in the way as to how to manage this. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Can you hear
Can
me,
you hear me?
Danu?
I can hear
Yeah.
you. I can hear you.
I can hear you very, very, very clear. So,
Okay. So,
right.
nowhere in the
Nowhere
world.
in the world have you found there is management. There is different models
Okay.
of managing the virus. So each one is innovating, coming out with a theory, trying to see as to how they can manage this, and then we have to pick up the learnings and again keep adjusting. So it's a very interesting situation that you are in. But if you take United States, they have said we are not going to lock down, allow the economy to dance, and if it is required, we will do a lockdown, but we are not doing. But then if you take Mexico, next, they are saying they are going to do a lockdown, and their data analytics tell you that they will peak only at the end of April to the first week of May. So once they peak, they will go back and take a lockdown like what in areas where it is not, we will go ahead and do the unlock.
Right. Okay. Okay. And do you feel Sri Lanka's take on how COVID has been approached and run by the government is the correct way in terms of humanity and in terms of economy?
See, let's be very clear. That first of all, we have to look at the humanity and then we have to look at the economy. So the approach that the government took in terms of doing the clampdown was very ideal. And if you look at the performance for the last 30 to 40 days against every other country, Sri Lanka has. But then every state head has to make a very, very difficult decision. When do I allow the economy to dance? It's a tough call, very difficult decision. So countries which have deep pocket can say I can continue for 2 months lockdown. Countries which are not economically strong will say I have to open up, and because we have daily wage earners which are almost like you call it the D and the ESCC groups, which are like 40% of Sri Lanka. So you have to open up. There is no option.
Now, lots of people did speak about the fact that, the curfew being relaxed even today was an initiative to sort of highlight the importance of the election. What is your take? And do you think that the election should continue in June or should it be pushed further?
To answer, Danu, I mean, right now we should look at the next 3 to 4 days and seeing how things are going. Because if you analyze Gampaha, if you analyze Kalutara, and if you analyze Colombo, in the last 4 days, there's a spike in the number of people virus. So now our fundamental job is how do we arrest? So we need to look at the next 3-4 days. We can't look at next 2 months. Nobody knows in the world what's going to happen in the next 2 months.
Okay. Now, another thing that we have seen is the fact that Sri Lanka has a lot of young entrepreneurs who took the initiative to break the normal norm and start up their own businesses. And so many startups did come about, which was encouraged by multiple government bodies. Currently, these startups are going through a financial issue, which also sort of works on their payment of the salaries for their staff. What is your answer to such startups and where do you think this will lead? Oh, I lost
See,
you
I
there.
think irrespective whether it's a conglomerate, the first task of any business is, can you hear me? Whether it's a
Yeah.
startup or a large conglomerate or whether it's an existing business, let's focus on the consumer. You got to ask yourself, who is the consumer you're targeting? How do I reach them? Brand. That is your fundamental question, that your target consumer group is buying your brand. You know that your revenue is going to come to the company. If that is so, you don't have to keep cutting your people and all the structures and everything, right? So a lot of people, lot of companies are just panicked, actually understanding what they need to do. You know, Danu,
Right.
I mean, our economy has been growing at 2.5% last year, right? Now, some of the companies that I sit on, you know, we have got a growth of about 25%. Okay. Now the question is, just because your economy is going to go down to minus 0.3%, which is what the World Bank is saying, right? Or it's going to be to a maximum of 0.5%. That's what the World Bank's recent forecast for this year is. I mean, your volume might not grow by 12%, but you can grow by 12% or 13%. You know, so it all depends on they call it the ecosystem. Can you reach the consumer? And how do I make sure that I get my consumer to come and buy? That's your challenge. That's my answer.
Okay. Right. Because one of the things that we saw at the initial stage within the first 2 weeks of the lockdown is the fact that big companies, which we thought could have lots of standby or even what can I say, dire situation cash stash, went into pay cuts and like informing directors will have to go through 60% cuts. There were huge issues that were made, and these were like well-known companies, like where we heard from John Keys to Brandix all coming forward and saying that we'll have to go through a pay cut. Why do you think that such a quick response within a 2-week period to talk about a pay cut is a bit of a drastic measure?
See, again, Danu, I keep telling, you know, we can't draw a parallel here. See, for instance, I'm in operation, we are in the logistical sector, where none of the ports are working all over the world. You see, then, I mean, come on, there is no revenue coming in. You know that most of these ports are not going to open for 2 to 3 years, right? Yeah, sorry, 2 to 3 months, right? So in the next 2 to 3 months, if you take that, you know that those stores are not going to open till June. I mean, that's what the US government is saying. I mean, for example, in LA, the governor is saying that he's not going to even allow football to their religion to be held till 2021. So in that background, apparel, you know what I'm saying, or in those fashion stores, you know, the Wolf Chase range or the Victoria's Secret or whatever, you know what I'm saying. So you have to look at your ecosystem and see how much can you support. You know, now if you are a company which has gone global, you are trying to develop new production plans, you're even apparel brand, then what do? You don't have the cash to pay your people. Okay, so you tell the people, guys, I've been with you for 30 years. Now please help me in the next 2 to 3 years to stay with me. You know what I'm saying? Or 3 months. So there are no parallels here. No.
It's a bit of a debate that every brand has to.
So the point I'm just trying to say, Danu, is there is a new economic order. The point I'm saying, Danu, is there is a new economic landscape forming. There's a new.
The line. Okay. Wanted to speak to you a little bit about. Okay, the government is making measures in terms of contributing to. Can you hear me? You can't hear me? All right, we'll have to reconnect. Would you join me again on my live? I will. Okay. All right, so I've reconnected, hoping that Rohantha will join me. We were in conversation a little bit about the economy and how certain companies did go through. Okay, Rohantha has started a live video. Um, let's see if he's going to be joining me or I'm going to call him back. Okay, so we were talking about a few pressing issues that we're going through in our country in terms of the economy, the startup companies that are going to be affected by this, then are they being affected, and what is the right angle for us to see it? And also another point that we did touch on is the fact that, okay, there are big companies that did come forward with a pay cut. This has been a bit of an alarming thing that lots of people were forced to reckon with, and it has not been the most best news for people to get during this time. So Rohantha has been speaking about what is the measure that we can take, and as a country and on a global level, how we can see COVID-19 as a demon that we have to deal with, and we have no choice. But right now, I am unable to reach out to him and get him here, so I'm going to just reconnect with him and I will get him back here. So do stick around. Welcome back. We can consider these as commercial breaks that we take. All right, welcome back. These could be our little commercial breaks that we take to sort of continue our conversation with Rohantha Athukorala today as we speak a little bit more about COVID-19 pandemic as the world tries to find a way to fight this both personally and economically in terms of how we can come out of it with money in our wallet and also a way for us to continue living. So there's a bit of an issue that we are facing. So I'm waiting until Rohantha joins us to continue this conversation. So do stay with us. In the meantime, I would like to say a big thank you to our friends who make Date with Danu possible during this quarantine period as well. Our friends from Quantum, thank you so very much for joining us. Not forgetting our friends who have joined us from Vikramaditya Opticians, British Cosmetics, and also our friends who are with us from Jonathan Studios, Movenpick Hotel, and Man in Checks. And right now I'm just waiting to see if Rohantha will join me to make this process so much more easier. So if there is any questions that you will ask, that you will want to ask Rohantha, you could always send it in onto our chat at the bottom here, and we'll be more than happy to take in these questions which are pressing issues. There was a question that was raised which I will read very, very soon in terms of hold on, let me just, there you go. One of the questions that were raised to the fact that how many tests are actually being done, and this is a bit of a pressing issue that we are actually facing, so that we will know the current situation. So right now I have actually got Rohantha back to speak a little bit about. Rohantha, are you clearer? Are you there? Rohantha? Okay.
Yeah. Tell me.
Okay, you are.
Yeah,
You're back.
I can
You can hear me now?
Danu, tell me.
Okay, much more clearer. All right. So
Yeah, I'm here.
something that we're talking about,
Can you
this
hear
daily
me?
wage has been. Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. Daily wage has been a huge issue for our country, and this has
Danu, can you
immensely
see?
affected. Pardon? I can see you. You're a bit dark, but I can still see you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, shoot.
All right. So something that we wanted to speak about is the daily wage issue. This has been raised multiple times. And also, I think we see a lot of people mostly suffering in rural area. These are sectors that have been spoken about quite a lot in the media as well. But tell us, what do you say? How is the government supporting the daily wage? And would this be an issue when they come back into work? Until then, what is the solution? No. Were you able to hear my question? Rohantha?
Danu,
Rohantha?
I can't hear you.
Not at all?
Now I can hear you. Now I can hear you.
All right. As long as you'll be there, I think you'll be good to go.
Okay.
All
I
right.
can hear you well. Tell me.
Okay. So what was I going to ask you was the daily wage has been a huge issue that has been spoken about quite a lot. What is your take on this, and how has the government worked towards this? Or how should the government approach this problem?
See, I mean, in any part of the world, I mean, the world, what happens is now find the UFs, they've signed up for $2 trillion, and they said, okay, we are going to pay you for the next 2 months your salary. Okay.
Okay.
So now the question is this possible in Sri Lanka? We do kind of funding. I mean, we don't have those deep pockets. So I think the way forward is we get the economic kick starting, which is why it was done today. You are forced to do it.
Okay.
So that then they can start working. So they need to get back into the normal economic cycle is what. And you know that agricultural sector accounts for almost 40% of people's employment, 35% to be realistic. Yeah. Sector must be up and running so that then the economy.
How safe is it for it to be up and running?
Danu, can I say something, Danu?
Yeah.
One thing we have to, government can't solve grappling with. It's not only Sri Lanka, you know. So, and we got to understand the government and banks are not the governments are not the people who are going to. The people who are going to say Sri Lanka is you and me. Get our companies back on shape. So now, which is why actually Rotary has launched this whole project, which is called Stop the Spread of the Virus. So we have taken protocols by the Ministry of Health, how to protect your company, Danu. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
How do you protect a supermarket? How do you protect the university that you're studying for? And then looking at the protocol, like when you go into the university, how you need to wash your hands, right? Then maybe if you're taking a vehicle in, how to disinfect your tires, you know. Then inside the university into group working and team working situation, so bottle with everybody. You can't share your lunch. You know, you can't have team meetings round a table where you have 10 fellows all around. Likewise, even at office, you can't do the same thing. You can't have lunchtime 12 to 12:30, where you have 100 people going for lunch to a small room. It doesn't work. So you might start for 2 hours. You know, the temperature needs to be checked, you know, in the morning. And hand washing stations have to be put up. So it's how you and I control the virus and get our companies up and running is the solution here, not to lower interest rates. I mean, yes, you can.
So it's more of within the company has to make the decision, and we have lost you a little bit, Rohantha. Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Rohantha? No, you can't hear me? Can you rejoin my conversation if you don't mind? This has been one of the hardest lives for me to do because of a very bad net connection that we are suffering with. All right, he's still here. Let me just connect with him. So in that way, we'll be able to see what he was trying to tell us, what Amazon has done. Tough times ahead of us, but we need to all work towards do our part, is what Rohantha is saying. Rohantha, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, so you were telling us about what Amazon is doing.
Yeah, say you have these PCR machines. Those are the machines that test to see whether you have your virus or not. About 121 machines, and every day you can do about, I don't, maybe
Okay.
about these PCR machine. I think it's about 20 million or whatever.
Right. Can you hear us, Rohantha? Right. I'm going to find a solution to this problem. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a WhatsApp phone call with him, and I'm going to upload the video, which will be videos will be coming up very soon on the Daily Mirror page as well. Thank you.